بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful.
ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل؟
Have you not considered, O Muhammad, how your Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant?
ألم يجعل كيدهم في تضليل؟
Did he not make their plan into misguidance?
وأرسل عليهم طيرا أبابيل
And he sent against them birds in flocks,
ترميهم بحجارة من سجيل
striking them with stones of hard clay,
فجعلهم كعصف مأكول.
and he made them like eaten straw.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Najiatul Fatah. I'm studying at Botany Department in Rajbari Government College. I live in Rajbari, Dhaka, Bangladesh. Today we will discuss about a surah from Quran, Surah Al-Fil. Here is a truth story for all. This is one of the favors Allah did for the Quraysh. He saved them from the people of the elephant who had tried to tear down the Kaaba and wipe out all traces of its existence. Allah destroyed them, defeated them, thwarted their plans, made their efforts in vain, and sent them back-rooted. They were people who were Christians, and thus their religion was closer to the true religion, Islam, than the idolatry of the Quraysh. However, this was a means of giving a sign and preparing the way for the coming of the Messenger of Allah. For verily he was born during that same year, according to the most people opinion. So the tongue of destiny was saying, "We will not help you, O people of Quraysh, because of any status you may have over the Ethiopians, Abyssinians. We are only helping you in order to defend the ancient house, the Kaaba, which we will honor, magnify, and venerate by sending the unlettered Prophet Muhammad, the finality of all prophets." A summary of the story of the people of the elephant. This is the story of the people of the elephant in brief and summarized. It has already been mentioned in the story of the people of the ditch and Dunas, the last king of Himyar, a polytheist, who was the one who ordered killing the people of the ditch. They were Christians and their number was approximately 20,000. None of them, except a man named Dun-Talavan, escaped. He fled to Asham, where he sought protection from Caesar, the emperor of Asham, who was also Christian. Caesar wrote to Najashi, the king of Ethiopia, Abyssinia, who was closer to the home of the man, and Najashi sent two governors with him, Ariat and Abraha bin As-Sawab Abu Yaksum, along with a great army. The army entered Yemen and began searching the houses and looting in search of the king of Himyar, Dunus. Dunus was eventually killed by drowning in the sea. Thus, the Ethiopians were forced to rule Yemen with Ariad and Abraha as its governors. However, they continually disagreed about matters, attacked each other, fought each other, and warred against each other, until one of them said to other, "There is no need for our two armies to fight. Instead, let us fight each other in a duel, and the one who kills the other will be the ruler of Yemen." So the other accepted the challenge, and they had a duel. Behind each man was a channel of water to keep either from fleeing. Ariad gained their upper hand and struck Abraha with his sword, splitting his nose and mouth and slashing his face. But Atwada, Abraha's guard, attacked Arias and killed him. Thus Abraha returned only to Yemen, where he was treated for his injuries and recovered. He thus became the commander of the Abyssinian army in Yemen. Then the king of Abyssinia, the Najashi, wrote to him, blaming him for what had happened between him and Arias, and threatened him, saying that he swore to tread on the soil of Yemen and cut off his forelock. Therefore, Abraha sent a messenger with gifts and precious objects to Najashi to appease him and flatter him, and a sack containing soil from Yemen and a piece of hair cut from his forelock. He said in his letter to the king, "Let the king wake up in the soil and thus fulfill his oath, and this is my forelock hair that I sent to you." When Anadash received this, he was pleased with Abraha and gave him his approval. Then Abraha wrote to Najash saying that he would build chairs for him in Yemen, the like of which he had never been built before. Thus he began to build a huge chairs in Sana'a, tall and beautifully crafted and decorated on all sides. The Arabs called it all Kulais because of its great height and because if one looked at it, his cap would be in danger of falling off his as he titled his head back. Then Abraha al-Ashrams decided to force the Arabs to make their pilgrimage to these magnificent churches just as they had performed pilgrimage to the Kaaba in Mecca. He announced this is his kingdom Yemen, but it was rejected by the Arab tribes of Adnan and Qatan. The Quraysh were infuriated by it so much so that one of them journeyed to the church and entered it one night. He then relieved himself in the church and ran away, escaping the people. When its custodians saw what he had done, they reported it to their king Abraha, saying, "One of the Quraysh has done this in anger over their house in whose place you have appointed this church." Upon hearing this, Abraha sought to march on to the house of Mecca, the Kaaba, and destroy it stone by stone. Muqatil bin Sulaiman mentioned that a group of young men from the Quraysh entered the church and started a fire in it on an extremely windy day. So the church caught on fire and collapsed to the ground. Due to this, Abraha prepared himself and set out with a huge and powerful army so that none might prevent him from carrying out this mission. He took along a great powerful elephant that had a huge body the like of which had never been seen before. This elephant was called Mahmud and it was sent to Abraha from Najashi, the king of Abyssinia, particularly for this expedition. It has also been said that he had 8 other elephants with him. Their number was also reported to be 12 plus the large one Mahmud, and Allah knows best. Their intention was to use this big elephant to demolish the Kaaba. They planned to do this by fastening chains to the pillars of the Kaaba and placing the other ends around the neck of the elephant. Then they would make the elephant pull on them in order to tear down the walls of the Kaaba all at one time. When the Arabs heard of Abraha's expedition, they considered it an extremely grave matter. They held it to be an obligation upon them to defend the sacred house and repel whoever intended a plot against it. Thus the noblest man of the people of Yemen and the greatest of the chiefs set out to face him, Abraha. His name was Nafar. He called his people and whoever would respond to his call among the Arabs to go to war against Abraha and fight in defense of the sacred house. He called the people to stop Abraha's plan to demolish and tear down the Kaaba. So the people responded to him and they entered into battle with Abraha and he defeated them. This was due to Allah's will and his intent to honor and venerate the Kaaba. The enemy continued on its way until it came to the land of Khatam, and where it was confronted by Nufail bin Habib al-Khat along with his people, the Shahan and Nahis tribes. They fought Abraha, but he defeated them and captured Nufail bin Habib. Initially, he wanted to kill him, but he forgave him and took him as his guide to show him the way to Al-Hijaz. When they approached the area of At-Taif, its people, the people of Thaqif, went out to Abraha. They wanted to appease him because they were fearful for their place of worship, which they called Allah. Abraha was kind to them, and they sent a man named Abu Rigal with him as a guide. When they reached a place known as Al Mughammas, which is near Mecca, they settled there. Then he sent his troops on a ferry to capture the camels and other grazing animals of the Meccans, which they did, including about 200 camels belonging to Abdul Muttalib. The leader of this particular expedition was a man named Al Aswad bin Mafsud. According to what Ibn Ishaq mentioned, some of the Arabs used to satirize him because of the part that he played in this historical incident. Then Abraha sent an emissary named Hanata al-Himari to enter Mecca, commanding him to bring the head of the Quraysh to him. He also commanded him to inform him that the king will not fight the people of Mecca unless they try to prevent him from the destruction of the Kaaba. Harada went to the city, and he was directed to Abdul Muttalib bin Hasim, to whom he relayed Abraha's message. Abdul Muttalib replied, "By Allah, we have no wish to fight him, nor are we in any position to do so. This is the sacred house of Allah and the house of his Khalil Ibrahim, and if he wishes to prevent him, Abraha, from destroying it, it is his house and his sacred place to do so. And if he lets him approach it, by Allah, we have no means to defend it from him." So Nada told him, "Come with me to him, Abraha." And so Abdul Muttalib went with him. When Abraha saw him, he was impressed by him because Abdul Muttalib was a large and handsome man. So Abraha descended from his seat and sat with him on a carpet on the ground. Then he asked his translator to say to him, "What do you need?" Abdul Muttalib replied to the translator, "I want the king to return my camels, which he was taken from me, which are 200 in number." Abraha then told his translator to tell him, "I was impressed by you when I first saw you, but now I order from you after you have spoken to me. You were asking me about 200 camels, which I have taken from you, and you leave the matter of a house which is the foundation of religion and the religion of your fathers, which I have come to destroy, and you do not speak to him about it." Abdul Muttalib said to him, "Verily, I am the lord of the camels. As for the house, it has its lord who will defend it." Abraha said, "I cannot be prevented from destroying it." Abdul Muttalib answered, "Then do so." It is said that a number of the thieves of the Arabs accompanied about Abdul Muttalib and offered Abraha a third of the will of the tribe of Tihama if he would withdraw from the house, but he refused and returned Abdul Muttalib's camels to him. Abdul Muttalib then returned to his people and ordered them to leave Mecca and seek shelter at the top of the mountains, fearful of the attacks which might be committed by the army against them. Then he took hold of the medallion of the door of the Kaaba, and along with a number of Quraysh, he called upon Allah to give them victory over Abraha and his army. Abdul Muttalib said while hanging on to the ring of the Kaaba store, "There is no matter more important to any man right now than the defense of his livestock and property. So, oh my Lord, defend your property." Their cross and their cunning will not be victorious over your cunning by the time morning comes. According to Ibn Ishaq, then Abdul Muttalib let go of the metal ring of the door of the Kaaba and left Mecca and ascended to the mountain tops. Muqatil bin Sulaiman mentioned that they lived on 100 animals, camels, tied near the Kaaba, hoping that some of the army would take some of them without a right to do so, and thus bring about the vengeance of Allah upon themselves. When morning came, Abraha prepared to enter the sacred city of Mecca. He prepared the elephant named Mahmud. He mobilized his army and turned the elephant towards the Kaaba. At that moment, Nufail ibn Habib approached it and stood next to it, and taking it by its ear, he said, "Kneel, Mahmud." Then turned around and return directly to whence you came, for verily you were in the sacred city of Allah. Then he released the elephant's ear and it knelt, after which Nephil bin Habib left and hastened to the mountains. Abraham's men beat the elephant in an attempt to make it rise, but it refused. They beat it on its head with axes and used hooked staffs to pull it out of its resistance and make it stand, but it refused. So they turned him towards Yemen, and he rose and walked quickly. Then they turned him towards Asham, and he did likewise. Then they turned him towards the east, and he did the same thing. And then they turned him towards Mecca, and he knelt again. Then Allah sent against them the birds from the sea, like shallows and herons, and each bird carried 3 stones the size of chickpeas and lentils, one in each claw and one in its beak. Everyone who was hit by them was destroyed through, though not all of them were hit. They fled in panic along the road, asking about the whereabouts of Nufail, that he might point out to them the way home. Nufail, however, was at the top of the mountain with the Quraysh and the Arabs of the Hijaz, observing the wrath which Allah had caused to descend on the people of the elephant. Nufail then began to say, "Where will they flee when the one true God is the pursuer, for Al-Ashram is defeated and not the victor." Even Ishaq reported that Nufail said these lines of poetry at that time: "Didn't you live with a continuous support? We favored you all with a revolving eye in the morning." For example, a guide along the way. If you saw, but you did not see it at the side of the rock covered mountain that which we saw, then you will excuse me and praise my affair, and do not grieve over what is lost between us. I praised Allah when I saw the birds, and I feared that the stones might be thrown down upon us. So all the peoples are asking about the whereabouts of Nufail, as if I have some debt that I owe the Abyssinians. Atta bin Yasser and others have said that all of them were not struck by the torment at this hour of retribution. Rather, some of them were destroyed immediately, while others were gradually broken down limb by limb while trying to escape. Abraha was of those who was broken down limb by limb until he eventually died in the land of Khatam. Even Ishaq said that they left Makkah being struck down and destroyed along every path and every water spring. Abraha's body was afflicted by the pestilence of the stones, and his army carried him away with them as he was falling apart piece by piece until they arrived back in Sana'a. When they arrived there, he was but like the baby chick of a bird, and he did not die until his heart fell out of his chest, so they claim. Ibn Ishaq said that when Allah sent Muhammad with the prophethood, among the things that he used to recount to the Quraysh as blessing that Allah had before favored them with of His uh, bounties was His defending them from the attack of the Abyssinians. Due to this day the Quraysh were allowed to remain safely in Mecca for a period of time. Thus Allah said, أَلَمْ تَرَ كَيْفَ فَعَلَ رَبُّكَ بِأَصْحَابِ الْفِيلِ